Imagine it's June 1982. The wind off the South Atlantic bites through wool and Gore-Tex. Your breath fogs and freezes on the rocks. Above Port Stanley, a British paratrooper lies curled in a shallow scrape, the world reduced to a small pocket of sight and sound. Wind, distant shouts, the creak of boots on tussock. In his hands is a rifle that looks like it belongs behind glass in a museum. A polished wooden stock, a steel receiver, and a bolt action whose basic geometry reaches back into the Victorian Age. Around him, Argentine defenders have dug in on Mount Longdon with automatic weapons, machine gun emplantments, and night fighting aids. And yet, over the coming hours of bitter, up-close fighting, that apparent relic will prove it hasn't finished changing the rules of the modern battlefield. This is the story of the L42A1, the rifle the British Army had been told was obsolete, the rifle NATO allies smiled at as antiquated, the rifle that kept putting lethal holes in enemy fighters nearly a century after its bolt was first conceived. It is a story about logistics, doctrine, thrift, and an old action made new again. After World War II, the problem for British snipers wasn't the old Lee-Enfield's accuracy. The No.4 Mk I had served with distinction through the Second World War, Korea, and countless colonial operations. The trouble came with ammunition. In 1954, NATO standardized on the 7.62 by 51 mm cartridge. The logic was simple. One round across rifles, machine guns, and support weapons made supply and interoperability possible in a mechanized, fast-moving alliance. The British Army's snipers, however, still fielded rifles chambered in .303 British, a rimmed cartridge dating from 1888. That oddball caliber created a logistical nuisance. Supply chains had to carry a second type of ammunition for a tiny but crucial specialty. In a modern army, that kind of exception is a liability. The obvious fix would have been obvious: buy new rifles. America did just that with the M21 and semi-automatic sniper systems. The Soviets fielded the Dragunov designated marksman rifle. But Britain took a different road. Rather than throw away thousands of proven No.4 sniper rifles or spend large sums on an urgent new design, the Ministry of Defense chose pragmatism: convert the best existing sniper receivers to the NATO round. Work began at the Royal Small Arms Factory, Lee-Enfield, in the mid-1960s. By 1970-71, a formal conversion program had been carried out, rebuilding the best surviving No.4 Mk I sniper rifles into the new L42A1. The program wasn't a half measure. Each rifle received a new heavy hammer-forged 27.5-inch barrel with a 4-groove right-hand twist rifling optimized for the 7.62 by 51 mm NATO round. The barrel was free-floated, no longer pressed against the wooden forend, eliminating the accuracy penalties caused by stock warpage in wet, windy climates. Receivers, many already several decades old, were proof-tested and found completely adequate for the higher pressures of the NATO cartridge. The existing precision No.32 Mk III telescopic sights were refurbished, recalibrated to metric ranges, and paired carefully with a single rifle, so the zero would be preserved throughout service life. How many were converted? Most reference works agree on roughly 1,080 rifles converted between 1970 and 1971, a small number by modern mass production standards, but enough to equip frontline sniper teams. The finished L42A1 weighed about 10 pounds without optics and roughly 12.5 with the scope fitted. Overall length ran to about 46.5 inches. With typical match-grade 155-grain ammunition, muzzle velocity sat around the mid-2,700 feet per second mark, and practical employment stretched out to roughly 800 yards in good conditions, sometimes further in the hands of an expert. But conversions and ballistics only tell half the story.
Why did British marksmanship doctrine stick with a bolt action when semi-autos promised rapid follow-ups? Because doctrine was decisive. British sniper training emphasized the first-round hit. Doctrinal documents demanded the ability to score that preeminent shot at 600 meters and to perform harassing precision fire beyond that. A bolt action enforces discipline, the deliberate mechanical cadence of cocking, breathing, aiming, and squeezing. It slows you down in the best possible way, a pause that forces reassessment rather than rushed, wasted fire that reveals position. The Lee-Enfield's bolt had specific mechanical virtues for that task. Its cock-on-closing geometry put extraction forces where they belonged, and the rear-locking lugs allowed a shorter bolt throw. Most shooters praised the action's legendary smoothness, the kind of slick cycling that kept eyes on target rather than wrestling with the rifle.
There were trade-offs. Semi-automatics like the American M21 offered more rapid second shots, and the Soviets built the Dragunov to deliver squad-level reach. But the British judged the L42A1's unmatched reliability, simple maintenance, and proven accuracy under extreme conditions more important for their doctrine. Americans would later return to bolt-action snipers, for example the M24, after encountering maintenance and zero retention headaches with early semi-autos. The British chose accuracy and the platform they trusted. And then came combat. Real, unforgiving, messy combat that would prove both the rifle's strengths and its limitations. On 3 April 1982, during the defense of South Georgia, Sergeant Major Peter James Leach of the Royal Marines made headline-grabbing use of his L42A1. When the Argentine corvette Araguarico steamed into King Edward Cove, Leach ran into Shackleton House, smashed out a window with his rifle butt, and brought accurate, suppressive shots to bear on the ship's bridge. His fire, combined with small arms, a Carl Gustaf recoilless rifle round, and an M72 Law rocket strike, helped to drive the Guarico out of the cove. Leach was awarded the Distinguished Service Medal. The episode became a concise example of the rifle's power in skilled hands, a sniper's hit forcing a warship's crew below deck and contributing to a larger combined arms effect. A few weeks later, the Falklands offered sterner examinations. At Goose Green, 28 to 29 May 1982, L42A1 teams from 2 Paras Support Company provided overwatch across open moorland and long sightlines, engaging positions and supporting maneuver. The battle was a grueling infantry fight. Weather, wind, and the fog of war constantly challenged observation and range estimation. The 3.5x No.32 scope required spotters to confirm targets at extreme ranges, but where conditions allowed, the L42A1's accuracy and the team's discipline mattered. Casualty figures from Goose Green: 18 British killed, 64 wounded. Argentine losses, including dozens killed and hundreds captured, underlined the bitter price of close combat, where snipers were one of many lethal factors. The hardest test came on Mount Longdon, 11th to 12th June 1982, a night attack across boulder fields and broken ground against dug-in Argentine units. Here, the L42A1's constraints showed themselves plainly. The low-power 3.5x optic was excellent for deliberate long-range shots, but less suited to the confused close quarters of all-night fighting, where targets appeared suddenly at varying distances. The rifle's weight and sluggish magnification could be a burden as men scrambled over rocks in freezing, wet conditions. Casualties were high. 3 Para lost 23 men and suffered dozens of wounded, and the battle exposed how a 90-year lineage had practical limits in the most chaotic modern engagements. The Falklands therefore issued a blunt lesson. The L42A1 was exceptional in the hands of trained sniper teams doing deliberate, measured work.
It was less ideal in sudden close fighting where low weight, quick handling, and higher magnification optics matter. The campaign's findings directly accelerated a procurement drive for a dedicated modern design. Competitive trials led to the selection of Accuracy International's precision rifle, adopted as the L46A1 in 1985, a purpose-built bolt-action made to withstand environmental extremes and retain zero after temperature shifts. Still, the L42A1's record is not merely a footnote. It was a cost-effective conversion that extended a trusted platform's life for decades. Around 1,080 conversions is the commonly cited figure. When the rifles were later demilitarized and sold off, a batch of several hundred found their way to the United States via Navy arms in the 1990s. A handful of examples saw service or limited use well into the 1990s. There are unconfirmed reports of limited employment thereafter, but by the 1990s, the L96 and other modern systems had largely replaced it in frontline service. What does that mean in the larger sweep of military technology? The L42A1 does not prove that old weapons are always better than new ones. It proves something subtler, that a weapon is a system made of platform, doctrine, logistics, and human skill. The Lee-Enfield action, the brainchild of James Paris Lee in the 19th century, was never a museum curiosity to British marksmen. It was a trusted mechanical tool honed by generations, and when patiently modernized, it could still do the job required. The L42A1's conversion program was also quintessentially British in temperament. Thrift married to engineering pragmatism. Instead of throwing away serviceable hardware, the Army refurbished, rebarreled, and re-opticked a small, elite fleet of rifles that did one thing very well: deliver lethal precision when the conditions and the men allowed. In the Falklands, we saw both sides of that bargain, moments of spectacular textbook sniping, and moments when modern tempo and environment revealed the limits of retrofitting older designs. When the final L42A1s were retired, they closed a chapter that began with Metford and Lee rifling in the 19th century and ended with a Cold War sniper doctrine that prized first-round hits and quiet professionalism. The rifle that looked like a museum piece had threaded a century of change, from Khyber roads to the South Atlantic tussocks, proving that excellence of manufacture, a keen understanding of doctrine, and expert hands can make a design endure far beyond the hype over novelty. If you liked this deep dive into a little-known corner of military history, the last great conversion that kept a Victorian action alive in the Jet Age, hit subscribe. It helps the channel keep making detailed technical stories like this one. The L42A1 is not a lesson in nostalgia, it's a lesson in careful choice. Choose the right tool for the mission, invest in the training to use it, and don't confuse the shine of the newest gadget for the quiet power of a matched system. In the end, a 90-year-old bolt action didn't refuse to die, it refused to be misunderstood.